So I want to give you an update on the Hyundai situation and also what's going on with US-Korea relations. Now, this is actually a really important week because the South Korean president is in the US right now, met with Scott Bessent. Many of the Korean delegation, because they brought a lot of people, are meeting with allies and also other US officials, and they're on a media blitz to basically leak to the press that Trump is insane. No, seriously, that's what it ends up being. Because what's going on at the moment, which is a really bizarre thing, is the USA keeps trying to extort cash from South Korea. So we're talking about actually $350 billion in cash, and it's having us all scratch our head. And you can see they're literally talking about in the news here. It's like, why does the US want $350 billion dollars cash, Hyungum's cash in Korean? Like, isn't this weird? And you have to put this in context when the USA is trying to get cash from Korea. Or you could also argue Japan. The USA is then giving a bunch of aid to Argentina, and that's 20 billion. Now, part of this whole cash thing that the Trumpers want is the idea is they're going to select some sort of investment or project that Trump selects, and then I guess Korea or Japan is supposed to have 45 days then to cough up the cash. It's weird, right? And the question we keep asking is like, why does the USA want all this cash? And then from the Korean perspective, just like, well, if you give them the cash, then it's going to crash our economy. It's like that's literally what the talk was about. Here, they're also talking about what happens if the Korean won, crashes. What's going to happen to our price of our cars? What's going on with the tariffs on Korean goods comparing to Japan or the EU? Because remember, when Koreans are selling cars, you're also comparing with, say, German cars, European cars, and cars from Japan. Let me play a bit with what the diplomat is saying recently, and this is an article in the Wall Street Journal because they're leaking to the press, telling everyone how crazy Trump is. This is an interview with Bloomberg that Korea gave. Listen to this.
More problematic also for Korean companies has been the visa issue, especially with the plant in Georgia. What sort of resolution can we expect on that front?
Before discussing what kind of solution there is, realistically, without a solution, it's difficult to invest in the United States and carry out the various joint projects currently planned between South Korea and the US. We absolutely must find a solution. Several projects are underway between South Korea and the US. Without resolving the visa issue, meaningful progress remains virtually impossible. The detention incident dealt a severe blow not only to the general Korean public, but especially to the workers who were actually detained. In the absence of firm assurances regarding their safety, both they and their families are understandably reluctant to enter the US again while this matter remains unresolved.
So you literally heard the language there. They translated it as, Korea is basically saying what the USA wants. It's impossible for Korea to invest in USA. Korean families, are reluctant to ever return. You can hear the language. And part of what the Hyundai situation is that in order to finish the plant, to create, 8,000 or 8,500 American jobs, you need the Korean specialists to come back and do the technical work that only they can do. And who would want to go back in the environment when, and then they keep showing the arrest footage of when, Trump's people want to arrest you and imprison you. You also have to put this in context of Georgia. Listen to what local politicians, their campaign ads. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG also referred to as. Watch this.
America is the greatest country in the world, and I fight the nasty America Last Democrats in Washington to keep it that way. I fight against gun control, open borders, the trans agenda, coming for your kids, and women's sports. And I blow away the reckless government spending on my DOGE subcommittee. But America elected Donald Trump, and now I'm working by his side to make America great again. And we are fighting to protect our faith, families, and freedom. So in honor of America's 250th anniversary, I'm giving away my M249 SAW Para to one lucky American patriot. Why enter to win this gun? Because in America, you can. And I'll always fight for your right to keep and bear arms. Go to the website below and enter to win my M249 saw para and join me in wishing America a happy 250th anniversary.
I know, guys, when you see this stuff, like it doesn't even seem real, but no, these are actually local politicians in Georgia. They're the ones who want to get Hyundai back and get the workers to come back and finish the thing. It's like, what are you people doing? Isn't it strange? These are some quotes from just regular Koreans, what they have to say. Here's one. Even if they offer a currency swap, we shouldn't rush into it. They're only after Korea's advanced manufacturing technology. This is a scheme to steal technology. China was spying, but the US is now openly trying to steal it. Again, this is from Koreans. Here's another one. President Lee stated, quote, if we accept the cash investment, if we accept the US cash investment, again, the USA is trying to extort cash from Korea, we will face a financial crisis. In response to the disagreement over the $350 billion, let's all come together and give strength to the current administration, meaning that let's support President Lee in resisting Donald Trump. That's what this person is commenting about. Here's another one. If you talk to the American far right, so that'd be the Trumpers, the MAGA, you will find the answer. They're thinking of eating Korea. Here's another one. Let's just hit them with tariffs. Why do we have to explain ourselves by giving them over 500 trillion won? And that's what the exchange. So again, in Korea, it's actually been big news. Like, why does USA want $350 billion of cash? Again, and then they've been giving interviews to Bloomberg. They've been translating so they make sure the Koreans can understand it. And then they show you over and over again that when you go to the USA, they'll arrest you and throw you in prison, and then they'll like demand cash. Essentially, another way to think about it is many of the words that I keep seeing on the internet. What Koreans are saying, calling the USA, gangsters, robbers. They also use the phrase of like, why are you trying to enslave us and why are you trying to extort cash? It's the whole thing is crazy and embarrassing. Again, and then we're at the UN trying to talk with Besant, and I want you to hear more from the Korean diplomat, what he has to say here.
Are the issues that need to be resolved around the $350 billion investment fund into the U.S.?
주로는 그렇다고 봐야죠.
That's generally the case, since the framework for the large amount is already set. The fact that the amount is fixed means it started with the expectation that depending on how that amount is structured, it could potentially be mutually beneficial. However, the structure itself, how the funds are raised or how the profits are distributed, these things need to be within the bounds of what's considered normal. And when explaining to our Korean citizens, it needs to be at a level where they can understand and accept it. Above all, it must be within the capacity of our Korean economy to handle.
And so the discussion in Korea has been the demands that the Trump people want. It's just so unrealistic, right? It's like going to your neighbor and say, "Hey, give me $1 trillion." And your neighbor's just like, "What are you talking about? like how am I going to give you $1 trillion?" Like, so essentially, what the Trump people want, they want basically all of Korea's U.S. dollars, like all the cash. Give us all the cash. And they've also been saying that Lutnick keeps upping the amount. It's crazy that these people, I'm talking about, the Trumpers, people are basically gangsters and trying to extort people. It's like extorting someone for protection. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be a shame what happened to your family? You know how gangsters talk that way. And so that's why Korea's going to the press to basically expose the USA on how terrible they are. It's actually upsetting and perfectly frank. I mean, just trying to keep it in real terms here. Just like, think about this, guys. And in this most basic terms, I grew up in USA, and, the USA's had a lot of problems and faults, but I just have never seen an American president act like the Trump situation. And Korea's actually trying to handle this stuff in good faith. They're trying to talk diplomatically about it. You're just trying to do what's best for local people. But how do you do business with anyone with the USA? And for many local people, they're just like, you got to cut USA off and just do something else. And so it's a tricky situation because they also know that Trump is not going to be the president of the USA forever, right? So you don't necessarily just want to pull all your stuff out, and you have a lot of investments there. So it's tricky. But then you got local people in Georgia who run these kind of campaign ads. This is Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia back in 2018. Watch this.
I'm Brian Kemp. This is Jake, young man interested in one of my daughters.
Yes, sir.
Jake asked why I was running for governor. I said, 1,
Cap government spending.
2,
Take a chainsaw to regulations.
3,
Make Georgia #1 for small business.
And two things if you're going to date one of my daughters.
Respect,
And
a healthy appreciation for the Second Amendment, sir.
we're going to get along just fine.
Brian Kemp for governor.
Right? So how do you deal with Americans when, like, this is Kemp for governor is pointing a gun at a young kid, right? And they're talking about, you know, cutting as much stuff as we can. I mean, this is like, just imagine, put yourself in you know, another country's shoes, right? Or put yourself in American shoes, and let's say you were to watch, we'll pick any country, doesn't matter, we'll use Germany. Just imagine if you had a German politician, you know, with a bunch of guns, you know, this is pistols or Lugers or whatever you want to, you know, German equivalents, or shotguns, and then talking about politics. Just put yourself in the shoes of, like, how would you feel if you had to deal with a country that their politicians wave around guns? Is that who you want to do business with? Isn't it the whole thing insane? And then their whole ad is about, like, you know, I threaten people who want to date my daughter. I said, okay. And this is why Koreans comment the way they do. So this is from regular Korean comments, people. Even with the currency swap, $350 billion in cash investments are strictly prohibited. This is more than just robbery. Everyone knows about the money that USA wants from us. How long must we be dragged around by the US? Aren't we being treated like slaves? And listen to more what the Korean diplomat has to say.
Yet on how they've responded so far. However, as the president has already stated, that amount currently represents 70 to 80% of Korea's total foreign exchange reserves. Without measures like swaps or similar mechanisms, the impact on the Korean economy will be too severe. Also, as a nation that had experienced a foreign exchange crisis, public vigilance on this matter is high. I believe these factors must be taken into consideration.
And people don't want to go back to, there was a financial crisis back in '97 with the IMF in Korea. Unemployment skyrocketed, the local currency crashed. And that's essentially kind of what everyone's saying is, like, if you do any deal with Trump, it's going to kill the Korean economy. So what advantage is that for us to do any business with Trump? Seriously, that's what the discussion's about. And people are very sensitive about this issue. So it's not just doing relations with Trump, it's also understanding local politics in Korea. And then also, again, this is why you're talking publicly, say, to Bloomberg, to Wall Street Journal, to let allies know that basically you can't do business with the Trump, and then try to solidify support of other nations against Trump. As you can see it here.
Are investment projects right now halted until some resolution is acquired on the visa issue?
프로젝트 자체가
Although the projects have not been entirely halted or formally placed on hold, it will be very difficult for a large number of workers to enter or re-enter the U.S. until this problem is resolved.
And so what they're referring to is, you know, if you're going to do business with Korea and you want to get the workers back, you have to give safety assurances. You got to make sure you're not going to, you know, raid us and arrest us and stuff like that, and fix your visa system. So that's what's going on with the Korea and U.S. relations. That's the Hyundai situation. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Appreciate your time. And I'll catch you all in the next video.